Well, hello, Renaissance family. I want to welcome you in to one of part of a conversation that's going to be ongoing. As we promised, we didn't want to just react to what's going on in the midst of a lot of racial tension in our country, as I think we're starting to look at systemic racism and injustice that exists in our country, but that we wanted to continue to respond and do so thoughtfully. And so we are going to have kind of an ongoing conversation and several different videos that we're shooting in the midst of this, just to continue to educate ourselves, to open this conversation. And I don't think this is just going to be a several week thing. I think this is going to be an ongoing thing that we're going to continue to do. But I'm excited to have my buddy Lovingsky be a part of that conversation. And Lovingsky and I, when I first got on the ground, he was one of the very first people I met with. We have a lot of mutual connections, and we actually went to the same school, same college, not at the same time, but because of that had some mutual connections. I knew he was in the area and kind of built a friendship from there. And so I wanted him to speak into some of this. He's an extension of Renaissance and doing some just great things in his day-to-day life to be Jesus. And we're going to get to some really cool ways that he is kind of on the front lines in his area of the city, helping bring some prominence to this conversation. But I wanted to interview him, as you're going to hear, as a man who moved from Haiti, as a black man who's moved from Haiti and had some interesting perspectives as someone stepping into America. But before all that, Lovingsky, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? You're going to do a much better version telling your story than I can. So why don't you just tell a couple of minute version of who you are, your family, and what's brought you into the Boston area, so people know a little bit more about you.
Hi, Jude. Thank you for inviting me to that today, and I want to say hi to the Renaissance family as well, and thank you for the amazing work that you're doing in Boston. I know it's not easy, especially in this moment, but you're doing an amazing work for the Lord. Um, I commend you for that. So, yeah, I am from originally from Haiti. Um, grew up in Haiti. If you have any idea about Haiti, it's a black country. We are from originally, like, we are descended of African. So you can imagine how you will raise without any idea of racism and stuff like that, or experience it yourself. Um, yeah, I was born in Haiti, and then my dad came here about like in 1992, 1992. So it's been a while. And then, so the family was back in Haiti, waiting for my dad to have his legal papers, and then to help us come to the United States. You know how it's everywhere in the world. We are waiting to come to the land of the free. We are waiting to come to experience a new life, and um to experience the American dream, the American dream. So it was really awesome for us waiting back there, but have the support of my dad financially. So my mom raised four boys by herself. So I don't know how she managed to do it. I have only one son. It's a lot of work to do, but to have four boys, it's amazing. She's a tough woman, a woman of God, and always you know teaching us about the gospel, how to live, how to be a good citizen. And now I'm not just a citizen of Haiti. I'm a citizen of America. I'm a citizen of the world. So that's how my mom raised us to partake in activities in your country and help people live a better life. So after we get the chance to move to America, you know, there are things that I did not expect. So um, you know, maybe you're gonna ask question about it. I don't wanna go into it right now, but let me still talk more about my family. I have a beautiful wife, Sophia, and then I have a son, Jeremiah. He's amazing, someone that everybody would want to meet. And he's amazing. He has a YouTube channel that he named it himself. He asked his mom to create it for him. So he's amazing. Yeah. Here in the U.S., I have four brothers. I mean, it's four of us, but I have three other brothers, and then we are all married, Christian, and living the life in America. So we're trying to, you know, uh, work with the community where we live, with the Christian community, and as you mentioned, I studied theology at CC, Cincinnati Christian University. It was nice when I knew that back then I was still in Cincinnati. I knew that Jew was going to come to Massachusetts. And then when I knew that, I thought, well, that's going to be a good thing for us to work together because our dream is to go back to Massachusetts. And, things then we got connected and here we go. We are working together for the
Yeah.
glory of God.
Yes, it is. It is awesome to work with you. And going back to what you said, Jeremiah is one of the coolest kids I've ever met. When your wife posts his YouTube videos, that is like must watch TV. Like, so yeah, we'll have to like post a link to his YouTube channel so all of our folks can like
Yeah,
go watch him. I swear he's going to be a celebrity someday. So
I know. He is already a celebrity in the US. Like a lot of people are watching his video. They love him, yeah,
yeah.
that's great.
Well, you kind of alluded to it. So yeah, why don't you walk that out a little bit further? You talked about the impression of what you thought you were coming to in the United States. The land of the free, I think, is what you called it, which I mean, we kind of like to say is kind of our slogan. And yet, um, I think, again, getting to the conversation as a black man stepping into our country, what has been your experience? What has it been like coming from a place like Haiti and stepping into, we're talking a lot about this 400-year history that's been going on and this ongoing story. Um, what has it been like stepping into the midst of that story, in the midst of that history?
In Haiti, we had, or at least I had the opportunity to study the history of Haiti, which is the history of Black people and the history of African people and history of Black people in America, Black people in the Caribbean. So at least I know like the origin of those people and how we were transported to like a big boat to come to those lands. So, and then the development of how, like Haitians, we got our independence from the colonized people. So it's at least, as I said, I had a training. I understand history, but I'm telling you, like it wasn't what I expected when I moved to America because America is the first powerful country in the world, and then you expect that okay, I kind of imagine that in Haiti my right may not be respected, but in America, so so they focus on the constitutional right of everybody. So as a black person, I know, okay, if this is where they focus on, so I'm gonna be part of it. So my right will be respected. But when I came to America, it was something completely different. It's like they divide uh, America into two groups: the white people and the black and brown people. So even probably uh, when you apply for a job, and I thought about that for a while. When you apply for a job, you see that they ask you, okay, what color are you? And then that alone, like already give you tell them, okay, this person is a white, this person is black, so I'm probably gonna choose this person. So because of your color, you have the priority alone. So coming to America, I um I as I said, I expected to be loved. I expected to be embraced by all group of people, but like it was completely different. My experience is um not different than any other black people who have been living for maybe 40, 20 years in America. When I came here, I have been stopped by police and who talked to me very rudely. And then, so I have experienced things where I'm driving and then, somebody will yell at you, go back to your country. I've experienced things like that in America. And, but as I said, it's a shock for me because I did not expect it. And especially for most of my friends are white. Most of my friends, even on my Facebook page, most of my friends are white. Um, so I thought, okay, this is the group of friends I have. Maybe the way they treat me, this is the way the population will treat me. It wasn't the case. Um, you know, it's hard in a history where it's been like 400 years. It's been like that. Like the system was set to treat black people the way they are treating today. It's not that like one person. We are not going to accuse one person, and then what they do to keep that system the way it is that you will see in the white communities and in white towns they don't have black history books on the shelves because they want to keep the white people uninformed so they don't know what's going on within the black communities. Um, what what they do is that they do gentrification. They took black people away from some towns because they are unable to afford to live on this town, so they have to go like somewhere else or somewhere they can afford to live. And those towns are very, you know, uh, it's very hard to live there
Mm.
because there's no good schools, no good education, no good jobs. So what they are left with is to do illegal activities. This is where they can get, money and or to do drugs. And this is really like the system creates those people and to do illegal activities. And what they do, they send uh, officers or police in those areas. So more black people are going to jail because they've been involved in illegal activities and stuff like that. So it becomes really hard, and the fight is not easy because of that. And then, as I mentioned, they wanted to keep the white people uninformed so they don't revolt. And I trust that when I say that. And you can see what's going on in the street right now. Maybe I'm gonna let you have the time to ask questions if you have about that. But they want to keep them uninformed so they don't revolt against the injustice that's going on in the country for 400 years. And they know that that was coming. And this is the moment that we're living now. Um, yeah. So it's hard. It's hard to see that I am in a country where what I thought back then is not what I'm experiencing
Mm.
now.
Mm.
It's bad for what I expected for not only myself, for my son or for my family. So yeah, I'm gonna let you ask question about it. Maybe if you have question or otherwise, I'm gonna keep talking.
No, well, I mean, I love what you're saying, and it sounds like, yeah, I think everything you're saying, even for me, it's a constant learning experience. That it is true. My wife and my wife was a high school educator, and we were just talking about recently that our literature, our history is void of black voices by and large, and we tell. I think that's what you're alluding to. We tell a very white version of history. At times, we talk about the Emancipation Proclamation, and then it's just kind of like, oh, they were freed, and we don't really spend much time talking about Reconstruction and how laws and what you were getting at, urbanism, and some of the ways that we home ownership and the education system and the way our cities were built is really putting white people ahead, and creating some of the systemic injustice that you're alluding to. We talk about Martin Luther King Jr. Like, I think I heard someone recently say, he he gave the "I Am a Dream" speech, and then he ascended to heaven. Like, he didn't actually face any. We celebrate him now. We kind of want to gloss over the fact. I've even seen a lot of white people saying, "Well, you need to protest like Martin Luther King Jr." And you're like, do you realize, like, he was viewed as one of the most dangerous men in America at the time and was assassinated? And so we do need to educate ourselves in those things. Even here in Boston, we like to kid ourselves into thinking we're one of the more progressive cities in America. And yet, when you really get into the hard numbers, there is a massive racial disparity and a huge class disparity in our country and in our city, that we just kind of like to gloss over, and we like to act like it's okay, and even things like, when I moved here, that shocked me, when I went to Concord. The first time I went to Lexington and Concord, the birthplace of liberty. This is where we took it over from the British. If you go in one of the graveyards right there next to downtown Concord, there is on the backside of that a grave to a man named John Jack, who was a slave, bought his freedom, but he was a slave and one of many slaves that the people in Concord who were fighting for freedom and saying that all men were created equal, and yet they were simultaneously owning slaves. And so we don't tell that part of the story because that would make us uncomfortable and that would force us to look into the mirror, but we don't. So I appreciate what you're saying, with all of that, with the education. Well, I would love to hear you kind of continue on. We'll get to it here in a second, what you're doing in your neighborhood. But maybe one more question, um, in regards to the church. Maybe I would just ask this question really quickly. What's your dream for the church? And as someone who does have a degree in theology, who I know loves Jesus and has given your life to him, what are you hoping more Christians will do, and particularly white Christians, in the midst of the wake of everything that's been going on, in our country?
Yeah, it's a nice question, and my observation is that the church has failed in this area because we could have accomplished much more than that. We could have be the leader of this movement for the change. Because Jesus came, he said that properly. I came to rescue the poor, or to help the poor. I came to liberate the the those who are being oppressed. So this is that um, mentality, or the idea that the church doesn't really take on. We are focused more on the salvation, which is the biggest part for us as Christians. But as we live on the earth, I think it's important to do both of them. Focus on salvation and the life we live on earth. So as a church in general, I imagine if we had worked together to change to change the systemic racism, we wouldn't be in the situation we are in today. Mostly we focus, okay, as I said, we focus on salvation, and then we have black people. This is the biggest thing, because remember, black people um have been really faithful to God, and they have been, fighting so hard. If you remember in America, um, at the beginning, the church, black people did not have access to the church sanctuary, and like you will come, and then but you have to stay outside of the church. But as black people, as believers, I we fight so hard to come together in the church. We fight so hard to integrate the church community, and when we fight to do that, we don't try to divide, but we fight for our right to be respected. And you see, today we have so many black churches, and they are devoted Christians and fight to be to be a good citizen, to live together. That's what we are trying. We want the church to represent in this world where we live today. Um, if the church, uh, not only we as a church we should focus on everybody as a group, but how do you feel about the person, the black person who is in your church? And maybe you have two, three, four families in your church. How do you feel about them? Like what they are doing in this? How do they feel during this moment as black people? So how do you reach out to them to tell them, okay, I know it's been hard. I know I don't I it's hard for me to communicate in this situation. I know it's hard. I don't even have enough word to express it, but I just want to reach out to you to tell you that we love you, that we stand with you. And I know some people may have even um, uh, um, problems saying Black Lives Matter because of the attribution of of the name, but it doesn't mean that you cannot use another word for another concept to show your love to these people. So it's important as a church to consider not only the whole body, but the individual that we can reach out to. And um, I've had many people at my church where I go now. Um, um, I mean, where I attend now. So they tell me directly, "Hey, Lovingsky, because of my faith, because of what I believe, it's hard for me to express myself saying Black Lives Matter. It's not that I don't believe that Black Lives Matter, but it's just because of the attribution of the name." Yeah. So I don't know. Like, let's focus on the word. What would Jesus, what would the Lord say about that situation? How would he react? And we don't have to go too far. Just go with the Bible, with Luke. I think Luke and Acts. You will see that Paul is a great example. I think it's in Galatians at the end of Galatians, maybe Galatians chapter 6, or all Galatians. Let me say that, where they there were a division between those the Jews and those who were like weren't Jews. They wanted to be a Christian, but the problem was that because of circumcision and stuff like that, because of the application of the law, it was hard for them to comprehend that, to get into that. So you imagine at that time, it's like the same thing as in America, where like a group of people is fighting for their own um, white privilege and keep it the way it is, and then the other group is like, no, no, I have to come in because I'm part of this country, and this is probably like a good example to see that how those two groups are fighting. And then what did Paul do? He just come in the middle. He says, no, that's not how it is. We have to do it the way Jesus would do it. And then, it's not like your good work will not save you, but your belief in the Lord will save you. So it's a good example for us Christians, even though every day we read that, but that's not what we do. So we read something, but we act completely different. Yeah, as a church, my advice is like to come together. Maybe sometimes you don't even have to talk. You don't even have to talk in this situation. Sometimes you have to listen. You have to learn. I've seen a good a lot of people now in the church, like in the white community, and maybe my white friends now, they are learning about what's happening now because they did not have the chance to do it, and now they are educating themselves about it and how to interact, how to support, how to change the system together. Because the fight, as for me, the fight is not like a fight between black and white or white and brown people. It's a fight between us, white, brown, and black, against this uh, um, uh, those who don't want the change, those who want to keep this racism going
Mhm.
on. So if we come together as Christian, I believe we have a lot of church in America, and those churches we have the opportunity to come together um, every Sunday and sometime during the week as well. If we want to come together and fight for injustice in this world in America, yes, we will achieve that.
That's
I
yeah.
I really believe it.
That's awesome stuff. Yeah, and I love what you're saying about reading Luke and Acts and understanding, ethnic differences was a huge part of the New Testament church. And in fact, our micro church just the other night was studying the Good Samaritan and Jesus kind of crushing the some of the stereotypes and some of the ethnic disdain that existed in his day, making the hero of the story someone the Jewish people had kind of pushed down. And I do love the comparison. I think in a lot of ways, the New Testament church wanted Jewish people wanted non-Jews to become basically ethnic Jews on their way to finding Christ. And if we're not careful in being white and being in our dominant culture, I think we can try to force black, brown, people of color into trying to basically, that's kind of a colonizing mindset, but become white and in nature, worship the way we would worship, think the way we would think on your way to Jesus. And in doing so, yes, we're not making room or celebrating the beauty of, not just saying I'm colorblind, but celebrating the beauty and the differences and this master creator we have that has created people with different skin tones and different cultures and beautiful things that need to be um, brought into the church. Well, hey, let's end our conversation here. You're doing some things about this, and I love what you said earlier that the church isn't just about salvation. We've been trying to hammer that home at Renaissance that God is about the flourishing of all things, the restoration, renewal. So you've been leading the charge in some cool ways out in your neighborhood in Acton. So why don't you just kind of tell us what's happening out there and maybe how you see God working?
Yeah. It's after what happened to George Floyd, and the America stands with us. America stands with the black people. And then like I was thinking about, okay, how do I contribute to that? How do I, because any one of us can be a victim. Any one of us as black people, we can be a victim because um I was carried to see what happened. And I've watched so many videos online where a black person is driving, and then as soon as the cop, oh, the black person just run through a red light, and the cop run after him. As soon as he got out, he just pulled his gun. Why did you pull your gun? What did he do? He didn't do anything. He just, run to a red light. So exactly, you stopped him. He stopped, and he just waited for him for the cop. And then he started talking to the cop. He said, "What did I do? Why do you pull your gun on me?" And I know, I mean, I've I've run to the red light. I saw you behind me, and I stopped. And why am I committed? Did I commit a crime? And the cop was standing there, and he didn't know what to say. I'm so glad he probably was one of the bad ones. And then um, so that's how that ended. But like for me, I realized, okay, I need to be part of that. But to be part of that, I would have to go to Boston because like everybody is focusing on Boston or the big cities, while we can do changes to in our communities. We don't have to go to Boston for our voices to be heard. We can do it now here where we live. And I decided. I talked to my wife about it. I said I need to be out there. I need to do something, and I feel like there's something I should do. And one day I decided to take my son, who is 5, and I said, let me go in Acton. Let me just there's a gas station where it's like it's not what it is, but like it's like downtown Acton. And then we stood there. After maybe 15 to 20 minutes, we had people coming, asking us, okay, can I join you? And we want to be with you. We want to support you in that. One email I received from a lady, she explained that to me. She said, okay, my daughter was passing by, but it was when you first started, maybe between um, the first 10 to 15 minutes where you didn't have anybody with you. And my daughter came home. She was crying so hard. And she said, well, I saw them like on the street. It was only 2 people. No one is there to support them. No one is there with them, but you see the little guy with his sign, Black Lives Matter, My Life Matters. And his dad is there with him. And I came with Jeremiah because I believe, um, like, he is, as a child, he represents peace. Anybody can come and join us. And I really thought that I would have people joining me. I would have people joining me, but I did not expect that many people to join me. And especially because in Acton you see it's a predominant white town. So and then the next day, uh before we end that day, we had about 20 people joining the movement. And they asked me, okay, what are we gonna do? And I said, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna plan it for us. We're not gonna just come like that. I went home. I created a Facebook group, and then I shared that with them. I asked them to share it, and then the next day it was unbelievable. On Wednesday was the first day was Tuesday, and the next day was Wednesday. I had almost 500 people joining. It's amazing. 500 people joining the next day. They share it, and then so I went home again after the protest, and I share more. I share the event with them, and a lot of pictures that I took, and showing them, okay, here's what's happening in Acton right now. If it's happening, and if you want to support Black people, if you are against racism, if you are against injustice, you have to join. And then the next day we have almost double it, like almost 1,000 people in Akron. It's unbelievable. One of the organizers in Akron came to ask me, okay, everybody was asking like who organized that movement. We don't know where it comes from. We don't know who organized it because we never had something like that in Acton. Most people we had in something like that, it was 25 person, 25 people, I mean. So 25 people. And then you see in Acton, you have almost 1,000 people joining that. It was amazing, and we were chanting. Um, Everybody was happy, and the most interesting thing for me was that we had so many children with us, kids under five, with their parents, with their signs,
Mm.
or with them. So it was touching, and I went to talk to the parents. I said, "You don't know what it means to me, not only to see you here with me, but to see your children with you, each of them with a sign and them. I mean, um, with them. So it was like um, unbelievable to me. And acting, I did not expect that. I did not trust. I mean, I didn't believe what I saw. So it's like it was a dream to me. And the fight did not stay that, and we continually, moving. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Facebook group I created. The first day I created it, it was me and my wife Sophia on it, and then the next day it was like 500 people joining. The next day, and then the on the third day we had almost 1.2K
That-
on the
That's
third day.
that's insane.
Yeah, on the third day. So people were really wanted. This is the same thing that like some people share with me. Like they wanted to do that. They wanted to stand with the black communities or black people in acting community. But they did not want to travel to Boston. And then to create that or to have that opportunity here for them to do it, they are so happy to do it. So and it's not that that only, and then we see the influence of our movement on, like, let's say Westford, where I went yesterday to a rally. They invited me to come to talk, and there were the congresswomen of the third district was there. There were another man there, so it was the three of us there, And after that, I led the chant with for them. So it was amazing to see all of those, maybe 0.0.5% of black people in that. So to see that I have that opportunity, it was almost like maybe 1,000 of people there, and to see that I have that opportunity to lead that chant and make an impact on the life of those people who want to support us, and we see other areas that are joining, like so organized something like that too. And Framingham organized something like that. Again, I'm invited this week to go to Framingham to support them and speak with them. So it's amazing. Like, I mean, the thing is, I talked to my wife about it. It's like, there are things you see happening in your life. It's not because of you, but it's the
Mm.
power of God working through you. Because like I did not expect that I would come here and like and acting. So where I did not expect to have too many friends, and then here now I have thousands, a thousand people now every day. We are talking on Facebook. They're sending me messages, and then you see other areas of texting me now. We are so grateful, like to see things like that happening and how that is working to us to, change that community. And you see a lot of them, they express themselves. Yes, I'm a Christian, and now as I know, and I mean, if you know Haitians, if you know me, everywhere I go, I say, I want you to know that I'm an ordained minister. Um, so I do what I'm doing because I want to reconcile the world. I'm
Mm.
not here to divide anybody, and this is our community. We should love our community, and this is the most peaceful protest we have ever seen.
Hmm.
And everywhere I go, I set the tone. I said, "This is your community. You should love your community. I'm not against cops." I told the organizers about that. I'm not against cops. I'm against the bad ones, the bad apples. We need to get rid of the bad apples, but the good ones, we're here to support them in their work. They have done such an amazing job, but like those who are not good, let's get rid of them. They weren't supposed to be working, but yeah. So this is what I've been doing here in Austin area, and I want to see more all the towns get involved in the same thing. So that's what I'm saying, doing now, trying to connect with other leaders who would want to do that and see like most towns would stand with the black people and in their schools and change the schools policies to see more black people in their in the staff and to see more black people get not just black people but black and brown people in their staff and to see more black and brown people in the police department. So this is what we're working on now. I'm putting together for the movement in Acton a steering committee. And the steering committee right now is going. It's like so like I'm trying to have a diversity group in the community, but like because of accent, it's mostly white people. It's amazing. It's been like 2 weeks since I've been waiting to see if we can get more, brown or black people joining us. I could not, unfortunately. Yeah. So, but we're doing something, and we're doing something to change the community, to see that God, is working through us is really amazing, and so yeah.
Well, man, well, I mean, it's a perfect example. Again, back to what I said earlier. Kudos to you. What God wants to do in and through us is greater than what we think often, and we reduce it
Exactly.
just to gospel presentations and to preaching. What you're doing is God's work, and
Exactly.
again, Him wanting to reconcile. You've said that several times, wanting to bring renewal and restoration to all things. And man, I was almost over here tearing up thinking about even in some of these all white suburban neighborhoods, like where you're talking about kids. How formative is this going to be when kids realize I went out and mom and dad had me taking part in this? What does that do to begin to shape and change the perception of a culture? And so, man, like, I'm so thankful God is using you. And I know we didn't get into this part of your story, but you have a theology degree and uh, probably haven't applied that necessarily exactly the way you thought you were going to when you were in school,
Mhm.
and yet God has probably been doing and up to something, preparing you for this moment in a way that you could have never dreamed. And while we obviously are mourning that we're even having this moment, that it's awful that we are, I'm thankful for people like you that God is bringing something hopeful and beautiful even out of the mess. And
Exactly.
what generational change might be happening through that. So kudos to you. I know we need to wrap up this conversation. I wish it could be longer, but Lovingsky, man, I love you, brother, and thankful for your heart. Thankful for what you're doing. Would you maybe close us out just by praying? Would you be praying for
Yeah, exactly.
the greater Boston area to incorporate where you live, and just that God really would work through His church and through all of us to end racism in some of this injustice, in a lot of this injustice, so that we can begin to experience a taste of heaven here on earth. Would you pray for that for us?
Yeah, exactly, brother.
Thank
Father, thank you for your love. Thank you for the way you're working through us. You are amazing. You sent Jesus at a time where we really needed that. We needed Jesus to reconcile us, and the work is not ending. So we as Christian, we are here to continue your work, the work that Jesus has told us to do. And now we are involving in a battle, in a fight against racism, and we are so pleased that God, you working to us and to our friends, like the black and the white people who are really interested in joining that fight and You are working powerfully in their heart to see the change in America. We're thankful for the work you're doing in Boston and in the greater Boston area, that you are bringing people together. And this work is amazing, God, to see the beauty of all people gathering together. Is the same as a nature. You see all beautiful colors, and to see people of different colors, different races working together during that moment is powerful. And they see your presence into that. And I'm asking you, Lord, to please help us to humble ourselves to do your job, to do your work. And um, we ask you to empower us to do this amazing work, not for our own benefits, but for the benefit of your kingdom, Lord. Um, we thank you for all the leaders who step up to help the change in America. And I believe this is a time for change. This is a time where we need a new America, an America who really trusts you, an America who really wants to let you take over, Lord. Um, we pray you. We pray that you can help us continue to do this job. I pray especially for brother Jew who is here in Boston, and I think he is into something that he did not expect right now. He is into something he did not expect with his family. Um, but when you send your someone, you you there's a way you use to train them for the benefits of your kingdom here on earth. God, I ask that you empower him and his team in Boston, that they will bring people to you. They will bring people. They will help people see the amazing work that you can do and the amazing work that they are doing here in Boston. Um, we pray in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.